"I told you, Colleen," my son snapped. "We need the money." Then the bat cracked against my front porch railing. Two of them. My son, Jacob, and his wife, Tara. Standing in my yard swinging bats like they were knocking sense into a wall instead of trying to intimidate their own mother. I didn't say a word. I stood at the window phone in hand, already dialing. This wasn't an argument anymore. It was a threat. The railing splintered a shard of wood shooting into the flower bed. Jacob stepped back, breathing hard. Tara, always the quieter one, lifted her bat again, like she thought she had something to prove. The metal glinted in the morning sun, and for one wild second, I wondered if they'd try the door next. The 911 dispatcher answered before the second hit. I gave my address, told her my son and daughter-in-law were armed, damaging my property, and refused to leave. My voice stayed calm, even as my heart thundered in my chest. I'd taught that boy how to tie his shoes. Now I was reporting him to the police. "Officers are on the way," she said. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Stay inside. Do not engage." I stepped back from the window. Locked every door, checked every window twice. My hands moved faster than my thoughts. I wasn't scared, not exactly, just stunned. As if this was happening to someone else. As if I'd walked into a bad TV movie halfway through and couldn't figure out the plot. I didn't open the door when the sirens came. I didn't even step onto the porch. I just waited, listening to the shouts outside, the metallic clang of bats, dropping on concrete, the crackle of the police radio. When it all went quiet, I walked out and stood in the doorway. The railing was split clean through. A chunk of it lay in the grass like a broken bone. And that's when I realized this wasn't about money. Not really. This was about control. About punishment. About breaking something that didn't belong to them and never would. The house wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Paid in full. No mortgage, no cosigner, no favors. I'd lived alone since the divorce and built this life from nothing, saved every cent, worked nights, cut coupons. I bought it on my 50th birthday. No one congratulated me, especially not Jacob. He just asked if he could crash for a few months. I said no. Not because I didn't love him, but because I already knew what would happen. Tara would move in too. Then the requests would come. Help with rent. Help with bills. Help with groceries, with gas. With the baby they didn't have yet, but already named. I wasn't going to play landlord to a pair of adults who still acted like teenagers. They called me selfish. They always did when I didn't say yes fast enough. Now they wanted me to sell the house. Not just help out, not just a little loan to tide them over. Sell the house. Because they owed $250,000 to people who didn't wait politely. They came to my door 2 weeks ago with eyes wide and voices syrup sweet. Said it was a business deal gone bad. Investors, Jacob said, like that word would soften the danger. Tara said they were running out of time. They didn't ask. They expected. When I said no, Jacob stood in my kitchen and called me a traitor. Said I'd rather let his life fall apart than sacrifice some drywall. Tara didn't say much. She just kept scrolling on her phone like she couldn't be bothered to look up. They left angry. Now the bats made sense. They didn't just want the house. They wanted to punish me for saying no, for owning something they couldn't take. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, thinking about how fast love can curdle into resentment, thinking about how long I'd tried to be both mother and safety net, and how they'd twisted that into obligation. By morning, I knew I had to move quickly, before they came back with something worse than bats. They baited me back with a lie. "It's about your granddaughter," Tara had texted. I came. Of course I did. I brought toys. I even wrapped them in the paper Ava liked with the sparkly purple stars. But it wasn't about Ava. It was a pitch. A desperate, sloppy plea served between overcooked pasta and forced smiles. "Sell the house," Jacob said like it was a reasonable request. "We'll pay you back double. Maybe triple." I looked across the table at him. The same boy who once cried when he broke my garden gnome, now speaking like a broker, like I was a client instead of his mother. Tara chimed in. "You don't need all that space anyway. It's too big for one person. We could help manage the money, keep it safe for you." Safe. From who? From them. I laid my fork down and wiped my mouth. "No," I said simply. Their tone changed instantly. Jacob leaned forward, his voice sharper now. "Then don't expect to hear from us again." Tara said nothing. She just crossed her arms like a child sulking after being told no more candy. Ava, bless her, was too young to understand what was happening. Too busy playing with her chicken nuggets to notice the tension crackling across the table. "Is that a threat?" I asked, not even raising my voice. Jacob shrugged. "It's a fact." I stood, gathered my purse, and kissed Ava on the forehead. "Don't forget your bedtime story," I whispered. Then I walked out. The door didn't slam, but the silence that followed hit harder than any loud exit ever could. I sat in my car for a while, gripping the steering wheel, feeling the ache settle low in my chest, not from their cruelty, but from the memory of who they used to be. I drove home without turning the radio on. The hum of the tires was enough to keep me grounded, and when I walked through my front door, I realized something simple and brutal. Their silence didn't feel like a punishment anymore. It felt like peace. Weeks passed. Silence suited me. I watered my garden. Read in the evenings answered to no one. Then the messages started. At first, just a few. Then a flood. "You're selfish. Do you want Ava to grow up homeless? We're your family." Not once did they ask how I was doing. Not once did they mention regret or concern or even pretend to care. Just accusations dressed up as guilt trips. They weren't trying to reconnect. They were trying to breach the door they no longer had a key to. I didn't respond. I didn't argue. I just blocked them. All of them. I told myself it was over. Until I noticed the car. A silver sedan, nondescript, always parked half a block down. 3 days in a row. Same time, same spot. I walked past it once slowly and caught a familiar profile. Jacob, pretending to scroll his phone. I didn't wave. I didn't slow. That night, I double-locked everything. Just in case. The next morning, the bats showed up again. Not swinging this time, just left neatly across my porch like a message. Like punctuation at the end of a threat. Aluminum. Black grip. Clean. Ready. I stared at them for a long time before picking them up and walking them straight to the trunk of my car. I didn't toss them. I didn't slam the lid. I just placed them inside calmly, quietly. Let them wonder what I planned to do with them. I filed a police report that afternoon. The officer was kind but vague, couldn't prove anything. Couldn't accuse without evidence. I didn't push. I just wanted it on record. Because something had shifted. This wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't even about the house. It was about control. And what happens when someone they used to control says no and means it? That night, I turned on every light in the house. Let them see I wasn't hiding. And by morning, I had made a decision. Not out of fear, but out of finality. I filed it. The full report. No hesitation this time. I brought photos, timestamps, even the voicemail Tara left the week before, her voice shaky, asking if I was still being stubborn. The officer typed everything carefully while I sat across from him, hands folded steady. Damage estimate $3,200. Porch railing window screen mailbox ripped off its hinge. My neighbor Janice gave a statement. Said she heard Jacob yell, "We'll get in one way or another." She offered to come to court if needed. She always liked my peach cobbler. The officer nodded slowly. "If they return, call immediately. We'll handle it." He didn't ask why my own son was showing up with a weapon. Maybe he'd seen too much of it already. I went home locked up and didn't cry. I added cameras the next morning, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. Motion alerts, night vision, cloud storage. My house blinked back at me like it had a mind of its own. Watching, waiting. Then I made a quiet call. "Lena," I said to my old friend now, a real estate agent. "I want to list the house." Quietly, not under my name. She didn't ask questions, just said, "Got it. I'll start the paperwork." I wasn't giving up. I was securing peace. Let Jacob and Tara rage at the walls. Let them try the door again. Let them swing their bats. Because soon it wouldn't be mine, not legally, not on paper. They could scream, kick, threaten all they wanted, but the house would be out of reach. I packed slowly over the next few days. Just the essentials. Old photo albums, recipes, the quilt from my mother. I didn't know where I'd land yet. I just knew it wouldn't be here, and it wouldn't be theirs. By the end of the week, Lena called. "We got an offer," she said. "One you might like." The message came just after sunrise from a number I didn't recognize. "Mom, please, Ava's sick. Come to the hospital." Just that. No punctuation. No context. Just panic, packaged in 6 words. For a moment, I froze. My heart didn't want to believe it was a trick, but my hands knew better. I called the nearest clinic. No one named Ava Mercer had been checked in. No emergencies involving children. Nothing. It was a lie. Just like the last lie, and the one before that. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed, "Do not contact me again." Blocked the number. Took a deep breath. By noon the next day, my mailbox was gone. Ripped clean off the post. Not stolen, destroyed. Bent and crushed, thrown into the street like a warning. I knew it was them. Jacob's work boots left a print in the soft dirt below the walkway. Tara's perfume lingered faintly in the hedges. But I didn't react. I downloaded the security footage, labeled the file, and forwarded it to my lawyer with the subject line, "Follow-up to ongoing harassment." He replied within the hour. "We'll include this with the protective order request." I went to the hardware store later and bought a new mailbox. The man helping me offered to install it, but I shook my head. I wanted to do it myself. I needed to. Hammering in the screws, I felt something settle. Not peace, but a layer of resolve. This wasn't about Jacob and Tara anymore. This was about boundaries. About what I'd built and who I refused to become for the sake of people who didn't care if they broke me. That evening, Lena called again. "The offer's final. They're ready to sign." The house sold in 6 days. No open house, no sign out front. Just a quiet listing through Lena's private network and a cash buyer who wanted it fast. The title went directly into a Trust My Trust with layers of protection. Jacob and Tara would never understand, much less untangle. The realtor shook my hand when it was done. "You sure you don't want to celebrate?" I told her I'd already done that when I signed the final papers. I didn't need champagne. I needed distance. I stayed in the guest room at Margaret's cabin for the week while packing the essentials. Everything else was going to charity. I didn't want furniture tied to memories that had curdled over time. Just a few boxes, my papers, and a small framed photo of Ava from when she still called me Grandma with a soft giggle. On Thursday, Janice called again. "They're back," she said. "I saw them snooping around your backyard." Jacob had a flashlight. Tara was pointing at the security cameras like she thought they were still yours. They looked furious. I didn't even flinch. "It's not my house anymore," I said. Janice let out a low whistle. Well, that's one way to make a statement. I ended the call and leaned back on the porch rocker. Behind me, the creek bubbled like it always had. I let that sound settle into me, steady and clear. No more wondering if the porch light was on for people who'd never knock kindly. No more looking over my shoulder. Just the calm of knowing the locks they tried to break no longer belonged to me, and neither did the burden. The next morning, Margaret passed me the phone. "Some man's asking for you. Says he's your son." I got the call around noon. "Officer Nguyen." Calm voice. Clipped sentences. "Your son and daughter-in-law broke into the property." I didn't ask which property. I knew. "Baseball bats again," he continued. "They thought you still lived there. The new owners were at a dinner party and came home early." He listed the damages: a $4,000 couch, torn to stuffing windows, smashed crude words sprayed across kitchen tile. "The couple is pressing charges," he said. I didn't cry. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel much of anything, just a stillness in my chest that made room for one question. "Are they okay?" "They weren't harmed," he said. "Just arrested, but they'll be in court." I thanked him. Then I hung up and stared out the window, watching a squirrel drag a branch twice its size across Margaret's yard. It was such a small, ordinary moment, and yet somehow more honest than anything I'd heard from my son in years. I didn't call Jacob. I didn't write. I let the law speak this time. A few days later, Janice sent me a screenshot from the local paper. Mugshots. Charges listed. The word vandalism in bold. The part that stuck with me wasn't the image, it was the date. 1 year to the day since that dinner, the one where they asked me to sell everything I'd built for their mess. I brewed tea and sat with it. They'd finally faced consequences. It hadn't come from yelling, or pleading, or forgiving. It came because I stopped absorbing the blows they kept swinging. That night I wrote a letter, not to send, just to write. Not angry, not cruel, just done. The next morning, Margaret knocked softly on the guest room door. "Colleen," she said, "there's someone outside asking for you." I found out through Janice again. She keeps an eye on local gossip the way some folks track weather systems. "They sold the condo," she said over coffee. "Barely covered the damage. $60,000. Gone. And not to fix their lives, but to pay for a tantrum in a stranger's home." The court ordered full restitution and the new owners didn't let up. Tara's parents didn't step in. "They're grown," Janice said, quoting what Tara's mother reportedly told a neighbor. "Let them clean it up themselves." I almost admired that. Then the restricted call came in. I knew it was Jacob. That old heaviness settled in my chest like it used to. But it didn't stay long. "Please," his voice cracked through the static. "We need somewhere to stay." I let it ring. When it stopped, I blocked the number. Again, Margaret watched me from the kitchen. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No," I said. "I'm done talking." And I was. For years, I'd rationalized every cut, every slight. Every time Jacob needed something and came with empty hands and urgent words, I'd told myself he was young or stressed or still learning. But now he was 35 and learning hadn't ever been the goal, only taking. That night I sat by the fire pit Margaret kept by the lake. The stars blinked above like they'd been waiting for me to look up again. I thought about Ava. I wondered where she was, if she was safe. If she knew any version of me besides the one her parents described. Then I let that go too. Not out of coldness, out of peace. Because finally, the only thing I owed anyone was the truth of my own quiet life. The next morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name. The day I moved in, the neighbor's dog ran across my lawn with a stick in its mouth. I laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. No one demanding anything. No threats. Just sun-salt air and a blank space to start over. The house is modest, one-story white shutters. The backyard isn't large, but it gets light from the east. Perfect for tomatoes. I planted thyme along the edge near the stones I laid myself. Every morning, I step outside barefoot and breathe like the world is brand new. No one knows where I live now, and that's exactly how I want it. I sleep through the night. No double-checking the locks. No porch lights left on for people who never deserved my key. My phone stays silent. My hands stay busy. Ava turned 7 last week. I didn't forget. I mailed a small envelope to a P.O. box I found once in an old address book. No note. Just a birthday card with balloons on it, and inside, an origami fox I folded by hand. Quiet. Gentle. Nothing that asks for anything back. I don't know if she got it. I may never know, but that's okay. I don't need a thank you. I don't need her to remember me as anything more than someone who once folded her a fox. Because the truth is, I'm not planting seeds for them anymore. I'm planting them for me. This life, with all its quiet routines and sea breezes and baskets of cherry tomatoes, I built it. I protected it. I earned it. And no one, no son, no daughter-in-law, no crying voice on the line gets to dig it up again. I stepped back from the garden bed, wiped my hands on my jeans, and watched the wind move through the time like a whisper.